Now, just a second. I'm just putting something out that I want to see real quick here. Good evening. Fathers threatened to calm you down again if you could be quiet. Welcome to the celebration of 100 glorious years of the Cathedral Church of Our Lady of Perpetual Help. I'm George Ragazzi, and I have the honor of being your host for this evening. As a parishioner since 1981, this beautiful sacred space is dear to me, as I was married there, and my children received their sacraments between its walls, including their marriages. Over the years, it's been to countless families a refuge and a source of comfort. And it seems to call us. As numerous times over the years, people have returned after moving to another parish, stating it was time to come home. I understand that completely. The feeling of holiness is overwhelming, and the strength of the souls of those who have gone before us is always present in that wonderful place. And most importantly, it's the bishop's church. And as successor of the apostles in our midst, it makes it a very special place for all the people of the Archdiocese. Now, as some of you know, I kind of like history, just a tad, a little bit. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about, because later on this evening we're talking about the future. So I'm responsible for the past, which is not surprising, given my age. Now, think about it. In 1919, there were only 2 parishes in Oklahoma City. Sacred Heart, the south part of the city, St. Joseph's Cathedral downtown. It became incredibly clear to Bishop Mearshart that we needed to have a new and larger church. And this church, which is going to be Our Lady of Perpetual Help, was canonically established in January of 1919. And the pastor was named as Minot, A.J. Minot. And there's some Minots here tonight. Charlie, saw you earlier. Hello, Minots. They're everywhere. There's Minots. It's a good thing. We're glad to have you here because, you know, it's truly a good thing and sometimes nepotism is a great thing because his brother, the architect, designed the church. Thanks be to God. It's a beautiful place, as you well know, as you experience the liturgy tonight, if you got to go. Now, there are risks in doing this. Okay, basically it's on the outer edges of the northern part of the city. And the cost is going to be exorbitant, $122,000. Yeah, about 2.2 today. It's still pretty cheap. You couldn't build anything for that now. So where are we going to meet for Mass? Well, that didn't happen until about March of that year. And that happened at a car showroom on Classen Boulevard. Mr. Rowe allowed us to have Mass there to start with. Now, the problem is, he had to lease it out to somebody else, and we were out of luck. So you'll see in those pictures that flash by here in just a second, and there's Father Jacoby's ordination picture. Those photos will come by in a minute, but you'll see, yeah, who's that young punk kid on the end there? That was you missed it. So, yeah, this is the dedication of the church, actually the consecration of the church in 1947 with McGinnis, you just saw. There's Father Wolf, a very young Father Wolf. Now, what happens then is we have to come up with some way to do this. And there it is, you just saw it. Do you see that little ramshackle wooden building? Okay, they built the school first, but it wasn't completed yet, and they were going to have Mass in the chapel of the school. But they couldn't do it in time, because there's all kinds of things that happened while they were building it. So they built this wooden structure, which was kind of a mess, because they had to have altar boys come in on Saturday afternoons and pull the weeds through the cracks in the floor so people wouldn't be uncomfortable. It was not something permanent. Thanks be to God, hallelujah. Finally, at the end of 1919, the school opened, and we also had a chapel, and that's where we met as a parish. The actual church that you see today began in July of 1923. And so when the church was being built, all kinds of problems happened. A tornado, the steel girders were up, a tornado came through and twisted those steel girders and threw them to the ground. This was after World War I, so steel was not readily available, so they had to be worked out. The kinks had to be worked out and put back up, which might explain why the roof has leaked since 1924. I don't know. It's a possibility. But that being said, there's one of the original altars in the church. That's the 1947 version of the church. You see the baldacchino? If you've ever noticed what used to be the Blessed Sacrament Chapel is now the Stanley Rother Chapel, there is remnants of the baldacchino. It's cut in half, and that is there. And on the other side where the baptistry is, which by the way did not exist until the Renaissance in the 1990s, it was an addition, and they had to fabricate the other half of the baldacchino because it was not available. Now, building a church, we also had problems too with torrential rain for 2 weeks in November of that year. There were problems in construction. When it was finally finished in 1924 in February, Bishop Meerschart died on February 26th of 1924. He did not get to dedicate the church he was so proud of and the risk he took to build it. So, with the death of Meerschart, we had to get a new bishop, and so in comes Francis Clement Kelly. He's from Chicago. Actually, he's from Canada originally, Prince Edward Island. But he'd started Catholic Church Extension Society in Chicago, which you've seen their calendars every year. They're still around. The extension is wonderful because they were started to help out beleaguered country parishes who could barely keep the doors open financially. So he came to Oklahoma and he brought Cardinal Mundelein with him. He was consecrated at Newly Named Cathedral in Chicago. He came to Oklahoma. He was installed as Bishop of Oklahoma, because that's what it was called, all one diocese in 1905. It became a diocese. And so Kelly was a visionary, and he had all kinds of ideas. And so when he came here, October 15th of 1924, he was installed. October 16th of 1924, the church was dedicated. Now, it's not like today. Dedication is a pretty easy ceremony, but at that time in canon law, in order for the church to be consecrated, you had to have it paid off. So in 1947, we got it consecrated. It took that long to get it paid off. Now, the man who's going to do a lot of this work, now, Father Manat, who had worked so hard to get everything going in 1932, his health was failing, and he asked Bishop Kelly, said, can I be relieved of this? Can I resign from being the rector of the new cathedral? Because in 1930, in November, Bishop Kelly asked Rome to make Oklahoma will be called Oklahoma City and Tulsa. And so what that meant is, okay, well, we just build this beautiful church. St. Joe's Old Cathedral is kind of not big enough anymore, and so we're going to make Our Lady's the cathedral. And then in Tulsa, Holy Family Church became Holy Family Cathedral, the co-cathedral. All right? So that's how it happened. And February 8th of 1931 is when it actually happened, with the canon law being read, the bull being read at the parish, and that made it official. Monsignor Manat's vision, who was a really interesting guy himself, before he came to Oklahoma City, he was out in the Panhandle. He was the pastor of Hooker and Guyman. Guyman was the actual mission of Hooker at the time. Things have changed just a tad out there. He did it on a motorcycle. So if you can imagine him tooling around the countryside on a motorcycle to see any Catholics he could find in the middle of nowhere. So he worked very hard. And actually, here's a trivia question for you. He is the only rector of the cathedral to be the rector of both cathedrals. He was named rector of the cathedral in Tulsa about 8 years later. So, Monsignor Minot. Now, Bishop Kelly has this young up-and-coming priest that he likes very much. It's John Mason Connor. And so he says, all right, you're going to be the associate, okay? And so what that means is that you take care of things in the parish, but you're not rector yet. That was 1932. In 1937, he became the youngest rector in the United States. He was named a Monsignor in 1939, and he stayed from 1932 until 1969. You will never see that again, I don't think, right? You're not going to keep anybody there that long. Okay. You'll never see it again. Monsignor was an extraordinary man. Quite a few associates, there he is right there. Quite a few associates came through, like a guy by the name of Buswell, who went on to become Bishop of Pueblo, Colorado, and a number of men who helped serve the diocese forever. One of my favorite priests who just passed away a few years ago, Father John Michaliska, was also an associate at the cathedral in the late 1950s after his ordination. So, one of the things I wanted to tell you about this really strange little thing that no one knows about, really. In the 1930s, there was a young associate pastor, assistants they called him then, and the assistant pastor's name was Gladstone Kincaid. It's a wonderful name. Gladstone Kincaid actually was a Baptist boy who played the pipe organ for silent movies downtown. He became a Catholic, and when he became a Catholic, he was sent to Rome to study, and he came back to Oklahoma, and he came to the cathedral as the assistant. He was such a powerful speaker that they called them convert classes in 1938. He had 250 people in his convert classes. Now you're wondering what happened. I never heard any more about him. Well, there's a good reason for that, because tragically, he died of a brain tumor at age 34. So all that potential, we'll never know any more about that. I just think he's a fascinating character. And so the cathedral goes through a world war and sees the destruction that happens with that, and families torn apart, and young men dying from the parish during the war. Prayer became very intense during that time period. After the war, there was great joy with the consecration in 1947, and there's the old altar. Just a little bit of trivia here for you. It still exists. When we did the refurbishing in 1947, it went to Purcell. I saw Father earlier who's doing a restoration of Purcell. He said that is the altar that came out of the cathedral. We have this wonderful tendency to refurbish and redo, and ask Father Jacoby at Mustang. You've got our old altar in Ambo. So I'm glad it's being used, because it's absolutely gorgeous. There's Bishop Buswell there in the center there, the tall guy. Now, various renovations of the church. The first time was in 1947, where the baldacchino was added. And also, too, after Vatican II, there were some changes. Of course, the altar was pulled out. The communion rail went away. And eventually, in the mid-70s, the Blessed Sacrament Chapel and the bell tower, which used to be the chapel to Our Lady of Perpetual Help. And actually, if you look at the side over there where the mosaic is, that was the entrance. Yeah, that's Theodore Mary von Elm. Yeah, I just knew her. That's the only reason why I know. So that used to be the entrance, and that side entrance was added when that happened. Well, we all know about 1993 in the Renaissance with Father Tom Boyer, and of course all the changes that were made then. It was absolutely phenomenal what happened. The school was enlarged and modernized. We had a gym for the first time. Connor Center, which used to be just a place where they had, you have a cement floor and basketball goals, made it into what it is now, that beautiful facility we can all use. And there's many other things, but I'll tell you about that a little bit later. And of course, 2019 with the renovation as you see now, as the church is now. This is the most ornate the cathedral has ever been. When it was first built, you can see, well, that's about 1947. So you see the baldacchino, and that's the old ambo. Yeah. Well, they also had, the big disc over it for sound purposes. That's the 1950s when they put that in for a while. Now, with Renaissance, it changed everything and it brought us into the 20th century. So, with that in mind, we're talking about all this wonderful history of who we are as Catholic Christians in Oklahoma City, the place of the cathedral in the very heart of what it means to be a Catholic in Oklahoma City. We have come to the point where you look back and you say, who were these people who started all this? After I was doing research on this, I saw people say, okay, well, there were 28 families that started it. Then I saw another thing that said there were 68 families that started it. We have no earthly idea who those people were, except there are some people in the audience tonight whose relatives were some of those people, and some of the people we have here have been in the parish, one I know, for at least 93 years. So, but the problem is, we don't know who all of you are, and we certainly don't want to leave anybody out. So what we decided to do this evening is that we will ask you that if you are a person whose family has been here continuously in the parish for 75 to 100 years, to raise your hand. We will bring a flower to the person who represents the family. And also there's going to be this envelope. And in this envelope, it's going to tell you about the fact that Father Rick will have a mass. Did you know this, by the way? Okay. Okay. Sometimes I don't tell you, I know, but is going to have a mass to celebrate all those families. And he would ask you to fill out this card, put it in this envelope that's already addressed, and send it into the cathedral because we want to know who you are so we can acknowledge your family. Now, tonight, I know there are families out there, tonight that have been here. I was talking to Tom Martin earlier, and he's got both sides of the family that were, the Doyles were some of the founding members of the parish, and the Martins were right there in the late 20s. And actually, his grandfather, Mayor Martin, a Catholic mayor who was an extremely effective politician, was also in that time period. And of course, we have little Patsy Durker out there. Some of you know as Pat Kearney, who has been here in her entire life. And I also think it's important to recognize, too, there's Marcia Powell's family. Be sure to laugh. She deserves it. Mike Connors, her great-great-grandfather, was one of the founding families as well. And there are many out there that I'm sure that exist that I don't know about. And God knows when I was in the tribunal, boy, that's Freudian slip. No, when I was in the archives, I was always looking to see if I could find those names of those families, and they just weren't available. So what I will ask you to do now is, if your family has been in the parish for 75 to 100 years, would you stand up if you can? If you can't, just raise your hand and let us see who you are. Okay, and we're going to bring a flower to you for your family. Yeah, there you go, Phil. Now, all those who have been in the parish for 50 to 75 years, would you please stand up? You go, Margie. Okay. Yes. Father says I should shush you. I don't know. As an old teacher, I used to be able to shush. I haven't shushed in a long time. There you go. Can't do that for sure. I think it's important now that we recognize a person in our community that's been with us since the year 2000. And his work in the Vietnamese community is stellar. He's as much part of the church as seeing the icon of Our Lady Perpetual Help, because since I've been at the cathedral off and on since 1981, I knew Father Bao very well, and he retired at the pastoral center, and it was always a pleasure to see him coming down the hall, and he always had a story, which was great. Well, this young man who came in a couple of years after he left became the associate pastor, with his main ministry being to the Vietnamese community. So I'd like to introduce to you now Father Tang.
When the Centennial Committee notified me that I have 5 minutes to talk during this reception, I had nothing in my mind but a long list of thanks. I remember that when I first met Father Francis at Notre Dame Seminary, I asked him, "Where you come from?" He said, "Oklahoma City." I said, "Where is that?" 2 years later, I was sent to Oklahoma City to replace a priest for a month. So when I rode to Oklahoma City, I was thinking that I would only stay in Oklahoma City for 4 weeks. But I believe that it is God's will. I've been here more than 24 years now. I first give thanks to God and our Blessed Mother for many blessings that I have received from God and our Lady of Perpetual Help. The blessing that I have received in my life, and those, especially the blessing that I have received at the Cathedral of Our Lady of Cathedral. And next, I would like to extend my thanks to Archbishop Belgian and Archbishop Coatley for welcoming, uh, incarnating, and supporting me here in Oklahoma City for 24 years. And I'm always grateful for that. And next, I would like to extend my thanks to Father Boyer. I lived with him for 2 years. And I lived with Bishop Weisenberger for 11 years. Father John Messinger for 9 years. And of course, Father Rich Stanberry for more than 3 years now. I have the experience that, and I believe that those priests, they have treated me just like a younger brother. They've been treating me with love, support, and guidance. And I always feel grateful for what they have done for me. The love, the brother love, support, and guidance make me feel at home in Oklahoma City. And Next, I wish to extend my appreciation to deacons and the staffs of Our Lady Cathedral, old and new, and also of the parishioners of the cathedral. Their patience, their love, and their kindness really make me feel at home, as I said earlier. Even though that I have to live away from my family and friends, but I really, really feel at home here in Oklahoma City. Many times some friends ask me that, why Oklahoma City? I said, I believe that I have fallen in love with the archdiocese of Oklahoma City. And my choice became bigger when, for the Gregory Win, a friend of mine from high school, we started together. And 10 years ago, he also came to Oklahoma City. And now he's here with us. So I really feel grateful for that too, because I have friend here. And at this time, I just want to ask you to allow me to have a few words in Vietnamese to thank my Vietnamese friends, deacons, Vietnamese board, all the different groups, committees, and the whole Vietnamese communities who supported me during the last 24 years. I will say this in Vietnamese. Con xin chân thành cảm ơn quý cha đã giúp đỡ con trong những năm vừa qua, trong 20 mấy năm vừa qua. Mỗi khi giáo xứ cần giúp giải tội, các cha đều có mặt để giúp đỡ. Cũng như xin chân thành cảm ơn quý thầy, hội đồng mục vụ và tất cả các đoàn thể đã nâng đỡ cũng như là cộng tác để con có thể phục vụ ở nhà thờ chính tòa của chúng ta trong 24 năm vừa qua một cách kết quả hơn. Con xin chân thành cảm ơn tất cả. Và I want to conclude this by saying that I ask archbishops, both archbishops, all priests, deacons, staffs, and all parishioners to continue to pray for me so that I'll be faithful in staying in love with the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City for the rest of my life.
What an amazing gift the Vietnamese community has been to Our Lady's Cathedral. I'll talk more about that a little bit later on, but he is the walking embodiment of holiness, and it's been my privilege to know him. Okay. Shh, let me talk. Now, next we have on the program is something that I think you'll all enjoy. We're talking about that melding of cultures and heritage is what Our Lady's is known for. And thanks be to God, tonight we have a prime example of that with the young dancers from the TNTT group in the cathedral who are going to now dance for us. So I'll let them do their thing.
Sorry. La 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 la, yeah. Your smile's always shining out, and they know what it's all about. It's not hard for them to figure out the way you show Jesus. You know love is what they heard, and you didn't even say a word. Ain't it funny, that's the way it works. So when you know Jesus, oh, it's like flipping on a light switch when you're walking into this room. It's so undeniable. I gotta tell you that I like the way, anytime, anywhere, any place. It's written all over your face, the way you love Jesus, and it always speaks to me. A little joy with a touch of peace. It's so inspiring, the way you show Jesus. So give me that, and show me that, show me that. Oh, give me that, the way you show Jesus. Oh, it's like flipping on a light switch when you're walking into this room. You're so unmistakable. And oh, show up any time of day. You can never get here too soon. You're so unbelievable. You're so unbelievable. Just give me that, give me that, give me that, give me that, and show me that, show me that, show me that, show me that. Oh, give me that, give me that, give me that. The way you show, the way you show him. I gotta tell you that I'm liking the way. Anytime, anywhere, any place. It's written all over your face. The way you love Jesus, the way you love, the way you love. And it always speaks to me. It's speaking a little to me. Joy with a touch of peace. And it's so inspiring. You know the way you show Jesus, the way you show Jesus. So give me that, give me that, give me that, give me that. Show me that, show me that, show me that, show me that. Give me that, give me that, the way you show Jesus. So give me that, give me that. Hey, show me that, show me that. Oh, give me that, the way you show Jesus.
Okay, I've had the honor to talk to you tonight about three people, and one of them we'll talk to you a little later. Three rectors in our past. The first is Father Tom Boyer, who was our rector from 1987 until 2002, 15 years serving the church at the Cathedral. And I wrote an article in the Sooner Catholic, if some of you read it, I don't know, maybe you didn't, but I talked about Father Boyer's gifts, and he found that very embarrassing. So I'm going to do it again. Father Tom Boyer, I'm going to let you have all about 6.5 minutes. It's going to come up. Father Rick says 5, so I don't know. Add it as you go. Father Boyer, I called to check on him a few days ago. I said, "Did you get out okay from the hurricane in Florida, where he lives in Naples, Florida now?" And he said, "Yeah, it was fine." He said, "I read your article, but there's one thing I've got a bone to pick with you." I said, "What? What did I do? Did somebody edit something? I thought I put everything in there." And he said, No, I said, you didn't mention my greatest accomplishment in Renaissance. I said, what was that? The parking lot. So I said, oh, wait a minute. What do you mean the parking lot? He said, well, I had to figure out a way to buy all those houses, tear them down, and then OG&E wanted to put like 6 power poles in the middle of the parking lot. So through his ingenuity and knowing people, if you know what I mean, he got it done. So I thought that was an interesting take from Father Boyer. He was joking, kinda. So I would like to introduce to you this time a very talented man, and he hates it when I say that, but Father Tom Boyer. So I got a call from Father Rick, and he said, we'd like you to speak at the banquet after the anniversary Mass. And I said, what do you want me to talk about? He said, well, you'll think of something. And I said, well, I'll talk about you. And the phone went dead. I put him in the seminary, 2 of them. But you know, it's a bittersweet time today. Like every cathedral church in the world, that building is a treasure chest, preserving our history and our stories. Every one of us have had some very personal and powerful experiences within those walls. Some of them are glad and joyful and celebrations of our faith, and some are less so. For me, the happy memories far outnumber the sad ones, but even those sad ones are worth remembering. Like an April evening in 1995, when we left the lights on all night, and hundreds of people came to pray in there while the Murrow building was smoldering downtown. My very first Christmas in that cathedral was less than joyful because a much-loved and well-known usher, Tiny Hafer, died in my arms in the vestibule of that church, 5 minutes before the first Mass of Christmas Day. Many of you, like David and Rhonda Walters, have walked on that aisle with daughters, and you've walked on that aisle with the remains of your children. It's a mysterious way how that one place can embrace so many different moments. Yet there are more fun times than sad ones. Even some of the sad ones have moments of kind of light in the darkness. I'll never forget, there was a big funeral, and Archbishop Salatka came to preside, and we were standing at the entrance of the church, and the coffin was there, and I was holding, this was the days before there were cordless mics, and I was holding the microphone for him, and it was time to sprinkle the coffin, and he grabbed the microphone. With the cords swapping all over the place. At the moment he realized what was happening, he handed it back to me, and he said to me, do something. I said, I can't beat that. But an alert server named Peter McConnell produced the aspergillum, and away we went. Remember Peter? And then there was a day when the Holy Year began, and we had that holy door closed up, and it was time to open it up, and the Archbishop came, and he had this mallet, and even though we had tested it twice the day before, no matter how much he pounded on that thing, it wouldn't open. And he handed me the hammer and he said, now what? With that, it fell open with a crash that I know you could hear at Christ the King in Nichols Hill. Now, Archbishop Salaka wasn't the only one to provide some good memories. Welcoming Archbishop Beltran was a great privilege. And I remember one Christmas midnight Mass, there was some celestial phenomenon going on, and it wasn't going to happen for another hundreds of years. And Archbishop began the homily by saying, "Where do you think you will be 150 years from now?" Forgetting how the sound carries across that apse, I said, "Sitting here waiting to go home." Father Ackerman was sitting opposite. He heard every syllable. He began to laugh. Then he stood up and left. He tried twice to return, and every time we had eye contact, he would disappear, and he never came back. Anyone who was there would never forget the Christmas Vietnamese pageant. A camel was coming down the center aisle, and about halfway down, it lost its head, and it rolled under a pew. And about 25 Vietnamese people were crawling around looking for the head of the camel, scrambling around while we waited for 15 minutes. But it didn't matter. We were already 20 minutes late anyway. But even with those kind of silly memories, there are some people no longer with us whose names I really think have to be spoken here. Were they not part of the big story of Our Lady's Cathedral, I don't think we'd really be here and have nearly as much to remember. One of those is Philip Rice. He followed John Mason Connor, who was there, as you said, for 37 years. That was not an easy transition, but Phil made it work. His respect for his predecessor was part of it, but Phil's passion for the spirit of Vatican II moved the parish into the future in a very firm and consistent way. And Phil's commitment to social justice and service of the poor and the homeless was the major reason why the Vietnamese people found a welcome and a home at Our Lady's. And while there, he served very well. He served very well as administrator of the Archdiocese after Bishop Wynne left for San Francisco and before Bishop Salatka came. Then there's one more name, Father Eischoff. At a time when Catholic schools were struggling and many were closing, Bill and Sister Marilyn and the Sisters of Mercy kept that school going. And it was not easy. There was no money. The building was falling apart. And even though they stayed through his tenure and into my own, the handwriting was on the wall. The Sisters of Mercy, there for more than 70 years, were not going to stay much longer. But Bill, with kind of gentle kindness, it's hard to imagine with anyone with a name like Eischoff. He kept the place going with a pastoral kindness that everyone appreciated and respected. But friends, the cathedral's not there for 100 years because of wonderful priests. In fact, if left to themselves, they probably would have wrecked the place. That cathedral parish and that building are there because of people like Sister Eloise. Remember her? She went from the classroom and then kind of retired, but not. And then she drove around all over the place in that old car that I would not get into, taking care of people who were hungry and homeless, needed clothing, and sometimes just somebody to listen to them. But while there could be more than a couple hundred other names, there's two more. Gail Ferguson. Yeah? A lot of you called her Gigi. I never could get into that. But you know, Gail Ferguson, that was her home from the beginning of her life till the end. She formed and prepared thousands of children for First Communion and confirmation.
She was joyful, competent, loyal, and humble. And there's still another one who's still there, and I went to see her the other day, Marky. How many children has she fed in that school cafeteria? And not only that, stayed hours and hours after school for childcare for kids who couldn't go home on time. My hope for both of them is that they can get some rest, because they didn't get much while I was there. But I want to finally just say thank you to all of you for giving me a place among you, not just this weekend, but thank you for staying with me so patiently through those 8 years we called Renaissance. As you built the Connor Center, the school, the gym, restored the cathedral, and the parking lot. For me, that was a wild 8 years out of my 15. And my hope is that God will continue to speak to us in that holy place and feed us who gather around that altar. Good night.
Thank you, Father Boyer. Your homilies were always challenging and well presented. I always love to hear you talk. The next person is going to have to be on video because he could not be here. Bishop Ed Weisenberger, one of the hardest working priests I've ever known, and this one too, who see that their mission is people. One of the things that Father Boyer said so well is history is about stories. And the stories of the people of Our Ladies are manifold. And talking about Gail Ferguson, she was wonderful. She was so open to kindness and love. And we've had so many people like that in the cathedral. Remember Joe Gamino standing in the back of the church. Joe was wonderful. I saw Joe one time, we were at an air show, and he was looking at a B-25. I said, Joe, what are you doing? I'm looking at my plane. I said, what do you mean looking at your plane? Well, I flew in B-25. I said, really? I said, where were you? Pacific. He said, did you fly with the Air Apaches, which was one of the top-notch outfits in the Pacific? Oh, yeah. That was Joe. When he was dying and I went to visit him at the hospital, he said, I don't know, George, if I'm going to make it to heaven or not. I said, damn, Joe, if you don't make it, I haven't got a prayer. He was a wonderful man. And those are the kinds of people that come back to me often when I walk in that building. Now, Father Weisenberger, now Bishop Weisenberger, who became Bishop of Salina after Archbishop Coakley came to Oklahoma City and then was transferred to Tucson, Arizona, could not be here because of some of his duties as bishop. But he sent a short video that he wanted just for you to see and tell you how much he appreciates Our Ladies and the people in it.
Greetings to all my old friends at Our Lady's Cathedral. I so very much would have liked to have been with you today, but it wasn't possible. But please allow me to say that my years with you from 2002 to 2012 were among the happiest of my life. While I remember feeling a little overwhelmed at the beginning, I also remember very quickly feeling at home among a community of the faith where sacraments were lived joyfully, education ministries were a wonderful priority, and the forging of relationships, friendships in Christ, made visible that truly we are, all of us together, the body of Christ. There were some memorable projects in that decade: the construction of the beautiful shrine to Our Lady of Lavang, the addition to Bishop John Carroll School, and finally, new air conditioning in the cathedral. There were a host of other projects also that kept our community busy in the best of ways. But perhaps from the perspective of eternity, what matters most is probably the baptisms, where souls were grafted onto the tree of life. For many in the RCIA, it involved forging bonds of love with God through community, something they hadn't known before. It was a sign, I believe, of the church, ever ancient, ever new. Celebrating the Eucharist, nurturing and deepening the life of faith in each of us. And the joy of family and friends at weddings, those new, delightful beginnings that seem to restore hope and the promise of love in each of us. But I would also say funerals, where we entrusted many to the loving arms of our God. Brothers and sisters, in the end, these were really what matters most, and they are memories that strengthen my own faith. With that in my mind and in my heart, know how grateful I am to you. Be assured of my prayers on this special day, even if I can't be with you in person. And may your first 100 years be eclipsed by your next. God bless and happy anniversary.
I remember when Bishop Weisenberger was always teasing Archbishop Beltran about it. All he ever wanted to be was a simple Monsignor. So at one point, that's what he said. So at one point, Archbishop took him up on it. He became the first Monsignor in the Archdiocese in 50 years. We were classmates in the seminary, so he's a special place in my heart. And he's a good man and a hardworking man, and also a very fine homilist as well. The next guest we have as far as rectors go, he was rector from 2012 until 2021. Father John Metzinger is with us this evening. And Father John is one of those people that he exudes kindness and compassion. And when he was the rector of the Cathedral, he oversaw the 2019 restoration of the church. And also, too, he helped us weather the storm of COVID, which was not an easy task for any of us. But he was a good shepherd throughout. So, Father John, would you come up and say a few words?
It is nice to see all of you this evening. Tough to follow Father Boyer and Father Tang and Bishop Weisenberger. Makes me think I should try to say something profound, but I'm not really in the mood for anything new. So, let me just remind you of a day in the Peanuts comic strip. On this particular day, Charlie Brown asked Lucy, "You know what I wonder? I wonder if God is pleased with me. Do you ever wonder if God is pleased with you?" And Lucy smiles smugly and says, "He just has to be." God loves us because God is love. But God is pleased with us when we do His will, return His love, and share His love with others. How to live a life that pleases God is something people have been learning on North Lake Avenue for 100 years. I am so glad to be with you this evening as we celebrate all that God has accomplished among His people over the past century at this beautiful cathedral entrusted to Our Lady's care. I first came to the cathedral as a seminarian in the summer of 1980. I was assigned the threefold task of visiting the sick, working with the youth, and organizing hundreds of Father Bird's periodicals from the Office of Worship. I enjoyed two of the three tasks. A more profound experience took place on May 29th, 1982, when I was ordained by Archbishop Salatka at Our Lady's. I remember that day, and from that time, the cathedral's had a special place in my heart. So it was a great privilege for me when in 2012, Archbishop Coakley appointed me as rector. I'm grateful to the Archbishop for giving the opportunity to serve the cathedral parish, to assist him at Mass, and to play a part in the recent renovation. I'm grateful to Father Tang, just the world's nicest associate, and the other associate pastors with whom I serve, to the deacons of the parish, to Margie Feeney, who did so much for the parish and to make my life manageable when I was there. And to all the other staff members with whom I had the pleasure of working. Father Boyer, talking about people, had me remembering a few who are no longer with us. Elizabeth Milam, whom I visited her home, lived to be 100, the first baby girl to be baptized at the cathedral, and she was just a hoot. I really loved our visits. Kimba Motley Mumi, the most colorful person I have ever known, I think, whose artwork hangs on my wall. And driving over today, Mark Ruffin came to mind, just a great friend and someone without whom the renovation would not have happened, and so many others who have blessed my life during my years there. Cathedral parishioners play a special role in the life of the church. You not only support your parish, but you also extend a welcome to people from around the archdiocese. It was an honor to serve in your midst, to pray with you week after week. And I'm grateful to the Vietnamese community. They were an unexpected joy for me at the cathedral. I was touched by their faithfulness and their kindness. And I suspect long after I've forgotten most of the popular songs I know, I'll still have running through my head. Zung noi zong tai noi lai bin sa ta di vang ta la mai de noi sun ha ma dat fa la anem ta ve gap na moon de ba ka quai quang prai zong ban tai ta nam noi troi mot vong Vietnam. I'll wrap this up, but I just have to let you know, a day like today makes me so thankful that I am a priest. What a blessing it is to share the journey with wonderful people like yourselves. I thank Father Rick for his kind invitation to say a few words and pray that the Lord will bless you in the good work you are doing. I pray for all current members of the Cathedral Parish and for all who will enter that beautiful house of worship in the future. May our cathedral, which has stood the test of time, be a place for God's people to grow in faith for generations to come. May we and all those who will enter its doors and bask in the light pouring through the beautiful stained glass windows be inspired to live a life that pleases God, knowing that we can always rely upon His grace and the intercession of Our Lady of Perpetual Help.
Could we have another round of applause for our past rectors? We are so blessed and fortunate at the Cathedral because when guys come to the Cathedral, it's because they've done things well. It is a way of saying thank you for being the best priest that you can be, and also to what it means to us as their parishioners to have that kind of talent in our midst for so long. So thank you, gentlemen, all of you. Now, I'll ask Father Rick and Father Tang to come forward as we give out the awards for this evening. We're going to actually wait, because the evening is getting rather lengthy, to take photos afterwards at the fireplace back here in the lobby and take formal photos. So first of all, the service award is going to a wonderful person by the name of Paula Maines. Paula is a native Texan, and we won't hold that against her, and a retired nurse, an absolutely delightful person. Paula's been a parishioner for the last 17 years at Our Lady's and was active in numerous ministries, some visible and some not. She served as extraordinary minister of the Eucharist, a sacristan who meticulously prepares the altar linens, a volunteer at Sister BJ's Pantry, helping with school lunches, the blood drive, the food bank, an RCIA sponsor, and preparing oils for Chrism Mass. So in short, whenever there's a need, Paula is there and more than willing to give of her time and talent. She's indeed a treasure whose compassion and kindness, tempered with this very real sense of humility, is an example for us all. Paula, would you come forward, please? Paula said she would accept as long as she didn't have to say anything, so you're off the hook. Okay. Next will be a special award for Vietnamese community recognition. In 1975, refugees began to arrive in Oklahoma City, with Catholic Charities leading the way, and as Father said so eloquently, Father Phil Bryce, 30 families found a home at the Cathedral. As more families made their way into Oklahoma, the Cathedral grew significantly. The culture and traditions of their homeland became an integral part of parish life. It was also a refuge for Vietnamese Catholic life, providing the liturgy in the mother tongue and sharing the richness of that heritage to Oklahomans. The community helped to establish a multicultural church, allowing the whole parish to revel in the customs heretofore unknown. To acknowledge the entire Vietnamese parishioners and for their innumerable contributions, will the Vietnamese board, who provides counsel to Father Tang and oversees the ministries listed in your program, now come forward to represent the community. Oh, here she comes. Thank you for all you've done for the community and continue to. God bless you. We now come to the Distinguished Alumnus Award, and that is Phil McGuire. Raised in the neighborhood near the cathedral, Phil became a part of a community of close-knit families whose children attended John Carroll School. Phil will gladly regale whoever will listen about his love for the cathedral and the school. John Carroll stoked an already curious mind and helped to develop his lifelong love of sports. After attending Bishop McGinnis High School, he received his bachelor's degree from Centenary College and later his DDS at the University of Oklahoma. He's maintained his connection to the school by enrolling his 4 now adult children. Offering his coaching skills also allowed him to share his knowledge of sports, but more importantly, undertake lifelong relationships with the students he served. Phil has taken it upon himself to construct a lively alumni association for Bishop John Carroll and recently oversaw the 5th reunion of his 8th grade class. His enthusiasm for his alma mater is contagious, and his commitment level and dedication is greatly admired by the school and the church community. And more importantly, he's my dentist, and he's really good. So, Phil, got you a cheap plug there, Phil. Phil McGuire.
So I was told, and I will abide by it, no speeches. So I do want to say thank you, and I'm going to give an all-inclusive thank you to whoever nominated me for this award. Thank you, as well as every single person who is working behind the scenes to make this evening so memorable and so fantastic. I mean, I see so many faces that I've seen a long time ago. I haven't seen in a while, but it's great. To my first current loving and only wife, Laura, our children and their spouses, grandchildren, thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for supporting me most every day. But my most grateful, to whom I am most grateful, are my 4 grandparents, grandparents Heenan and McGuire, because like a lot of your parents, or a lot of your grandparents, those guys made the hugest sacrifice to put their kids through Catholic education in the middle of the Great Depression. It's so wonderful. Without those 4, I'm not standing here getting this. Because of those 4, the McGuire family tradition of Catholic education continues today, because I have a grandson in the 3rd grade at John Carroll who's now 4th generation in that school. And I am also going to say I have 5th generation in the parish, in that same 3rd grader and his little 3-year-old sister, who are basically the ambassadors to 8 o'clock Mass. They take up the gifts every week, and they're part of the community. But 5 generations means a lot to me. Very quickly, and not a braggadocious breath in this, through McGinnis and Centenary, where I went undergrad, I received a lot of awards. This by far bypasses all of them combined. This means so much to me. And if you haven't guessed now, I'm going to tell you, I love my cathedral parish. I love my school. And as always, go Eagles! Go Eagles! Thank you guys so much. Thanks, Rick.
Got to tell you, Phil, when I go to the dentist, it's the first time in my life I've enjoyed going to the dentist, because I always enjoy our conversations. It's always interesting. The last award this evening is going to Legacy Alumnus Award, and that would be Judy Love. Judy's not able to be with us this evening, and so Father has already taken her award to her tomorrow to give to her to share with her. But just a little bit about Judy Love. Judy McCarthy Love's generosity and generous demeanor is well known to the Oklahoma Catholic community. A graduate of John Carroll School in 1951, she never shied away from declaring her Our Lady's roots. Her donations to the parish and the school are well known, and her dedication to Catholic education, legendary. With her late husband Tom by her side, the True Gru Loves travel stops into a business juggernaut. Out of their success, her Catholic faith compelled her to give back to the community. She helped to raise $40 million to the Love Family Women's Center at Mercy Hospital, as well as chairing the fundraising for Positive Tomorrows, a school dedicated to children who are homeless. Her contributions to make Oklahoma a better place are too numerous to mention. Her remarkable life continues to be a source of pride to the Catholic community and the Cathedral community. So we thank you, Judy. We're sorry you couldn't be here this evening. Well, thank you for allowing me to be with you this evening and keeping things moving along, as that was my major job, as I was told. So I'm happy to have been a member of this parish since 1981. It has been a glorious time in my family's life, and I can't tell you how much it means to me to see all you here supporting this wonderful place and all it's done in its 100 years of existence. So thank you. Father Rick?
They told me I had to wrap it up. I'm like, oh, everyone's ready to go home. I don't want to hear anybody talk anymore. But first of all, I just want to thank all of you for being here. I think it's been a great evening. And also thank our sponsors who helped underwrite the cost of this evening. And that was a great blessing. Have you noticed that if you're going to be a rector of this cathedral, you have hair challenge issues? I'm like, we're all bald. So I don't know. Well, I just begin by thanking all those who made this day happen and to those that helped plan this event. It took a lot of planning to bring all this to fruition, and I would like to especially thank the Centennial Committee, which include Father Tang, Lisa Edmonds, Adele Edmonds, Kate Ferguson, Mary Franz, Antonio Guzman, Will Milam, Maria Nguyen, Son Nguyen, Ann Pham, George Ragazzi, Tony Stizza, Margene Tao, and Joseph Vu. Thank you all for all that you did. And a special thanks to all who contributed pictures or content. Tom Den, Kate Ferguson, Rosemary Lewis, Kwok Mai, Stephen Pusateri, Faith Riley, Nolan Riley, George Ragazzi, Tona Stizza, Linda Tran, Don Weber, and the Archdiocesan Archives and the Oklahoma Historical Society. It was great to see all the pictures. Just real quickly, it was around this time last year that many of us gathered with our Jewish brothers and sisters, seeking solace amidst the tragedies that were unfolding in Israel. During that prayer vigil up over at Temple B'nai, Israel, here in the city, we heard moving stories of resilience, hope, and faith. And even in the face of ongoing turmoil, the Jewish people continued to celebrate the Sabbath with unwavering devotion. I once heard, I don't know if it's true, that they light 2 candles for the Sabbath in remembrance of the 2 destroyed temples of Jerusalem. The message behind this is profound. Buildings may crumble, and we know they do, but what truly matters is the gathering of the people and the love we show to each other. This brings us to our own cathedral. Yeah, we have a beautiful, magnificent structure, but the true beauty, like I said in my homilies today, lies in the people who worship here, the living church. You are the ones who build us up. The building may come and go, but the people will always be there. Today makes the end to a long process of preparation for this celebration, but it also is not the end, but it's the beginning of our next chapter, the next 100 years. And as reflected on how best to commemorate this milestone, there was a lot of suggestions made, including the idea of fundraising for infrastructure needs, which can only be deferred for so long, which may happen later, but at any rate. But in the end, at the end of the day, we recognize that what we need most is not just physical repairs, but it's a renewal of our spiritual life. And that's why we're launching a campaign for spiritual development titled Embracing Our Call to Holiness. Because all of us, we all need to be holier, and that's what we're here for. That's what the church is for. Yeah, the church is always going to require maintenance and upkeep, but what it truly needs and thirsts for are holy people. You've probably heard the phrase, if you build it, they will come. But I believe it's even more true to say, if you build them up, more will come. Holiness is very attractive. Consider St. Mother Teresa. Her dedication to serving the poor, it drew people from all corners of the world. She popularized the phrase, I thirst, and that it's put above a crucifix in all the missionaries of charities chapels. And I was chaplain to one of those convents when I was in Rome for school. And it shows that deep longing for souls. If you ever watched a raindrop fall into a body of water, you've seen the ripple that goes out. In the same way, all of you guys are like a drop of rain, creating ripples in the lives of those around you. You're a catalyst to helping all of us grow in holiness, touching hearts and inspiring faith, which we all know the world needs more than ever. Our cathedral would be investing into building up all the people and the ministries for accompanying more people on our path to holiness. This celebration has served as a great launch for our campaign for spiritual development, and I'm eager to walk this path with all of you guys. For as much as I hope to inspire others towards holiness, I recognize that I too have a long way to go in the holiness department. As we begin our next century of our journey, let us pray for each other and drawing inspiration from all of our Jewish brothers and sisters and others. They remind us no matter what the challenges we face, what truly matters is coming together in faith to know and love and serve God. Let us remember that the cathedral as the mother church always welcomes you and invites you to embrace your call to holiness. And so I would like to just say a final prayer and thank all of you for coming. And actually, you know what? We're 30 minutes ahead of schedule. And I'm supposed to announce that if you have a tag in the program, is that right? It's the back page of the program, then you can take the short arrangements that Mary Franz is holding up, not the big old tall ones, but the short ones. You can take them home. So see who has those little tags in their program. All right. And now the Lord be with you. And may Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in peace, and God bless you all. Thank you.